This video is now in session, and a slew of redistricting maps have been proposed by many independent commissions. So in last redistricting video, we went over Oregon and Colorado, but since then, there have been way more. There has been from Idaho, Indiana, Iowa, Maine, Maryland, Nebraska, New York, and those are the states so far. Now, that's a lot of states for us to go through in this video, so we're going to kind of divide this into multiple videos throughout the next 2 weeks or so. So in this video, we're going to focus on Iowa. Iowa has a legislative services agency, and this is a very notable agency in the redistricting world because it has provided, it has provided a blueprint for the gold standard of having the least gerrymandered districts possible and the most compact districts possible. So even though Republicans technically don't really need and haven't really needed to follow the legislative service agency's maps, they have. Both Democrats and Republicans have followed the legislative services agency primarily because of how much it is a very valued institution. But this year may change. The historical tradition of following through what the LSA says may end because Republicans have higher power in this redistricting cycle than they did before. And that's mainly because of deadlines. So the rule is that by a certain deadline, the LSA, or I guess the Iowa State House and State Senate would have to enact one of the LSA's map. And if they don't do it by that deadline, then basically the Iowa State House can do anything they want. They can either reject, they can still follow through with the LSA maps, or they can reject it and make their own maps. So this year, what happened was that the U.S. Census was delayed a little bit in terms of their full release. And as a result, the LSA has already passed its deadline of when it needed to pass the maps without any competing visions. So because of that, Republicans could easily kind of buck Iowa's LSA and make their own map. There's a possibility where the Republicans make a 3-seat majority for themselves. Currently, they do have a 3-seat majority, but 2 of those 3 seats are pretty competitive. Here you can see it's an R+5 in terms of a partisan lean, and here is an R+2. So what they can do is that they can kind of take Cedar Rapids and Davenport, this area of eastern Iowa, which trends more Democratic, and they can pretty much pack those Democratic votes into a district, and then take some of the votes from Iowa's 3rd district. So the 1st and 2nd. So I guess taking the 2nd district and putting some of it in Des Moines and in more of Republican areas, and then take Iowa's 3rd district and move it a little bit over into Iowa's 4th district territory, where there are a lot more Republicans. Here in this district, it is R+28. So you can have a scenario where there are 3 Republicans and 1 Democrats in the Iowa delegation, and the 3 Republicans would all be able to win by at least likely margins. But this is a different map. This is a map where there are 2 Republican-leaning seats, 1 Democratic-leaning seat, and then 1 competitive seat. Last time we saw 1 Republican seat, safe seat, and then 3 competitive seats. So let's go through each of these districts. First, we have Iowa's 4th district. This district hasn't really changed much in partisanship. It's only gotten more Republican. You can see here it's an increase from 28% to 33%. So Fenstra has a more Republican district. For Iowa's 3rd district, it changes marginal. It has a marginal change. So in terms of the partisanship rating, which is based off of the Cook Political Reports' PVI, our Partisan Value Index, it hasn't changed at all. It's still R+2, as you can see right here. But the difference is that instead of the current 3rd district, which voted for Trump by 0.2%, this new 3rd district votes for Biden or voted for Biden by 0.2%. So it's a shift of 0.4% from Trump to Biden, but overall in the PVI, not much has changed. The real change comes from Iowa's 1st and 2nd district. You can see here that both of them are currently represented by Republicans. And just a side note, Iowa's 1st and 2nd district here, the incumbents are in opposite places. I don't know why 538 has Ashley Hinson in the 2nd district. Under this map, she will now be under the 1st district, and then Miller Meeks would now be under the 2nd district. But this is where the major changes come, because back then, or I guess back currently, because this map is still in place, Republicans had a lean rating on both of these seats. But now you can see here that one of these seats has turned into likely, and then the other seat has turned likely before the Democrats. So you can see here that one district gets more Republican and another district gets more Democratic, more specifically this Eastern district right here. So for Ashley Hinson, who is in this area of the 1st district, she will now be put into a new 1st district that, first of all, is more Democratic, which means not good for her re-election chances, but more importantly, or I guess not more importantly, but rather to add on, she's also represented an entirely new constituency. You can see the difference right here. She used to represent Northeast Iowa. Now she represents Southeast Iowa. And then if we look at Miller Meeks' seat, she used to represent Southeast Iowa in this area that she lives in, but now she represents Northeast Iowa. So both of them have completely different constituencies, and Ashley Hinson is now in a Democratic trend or a Democratic likely seat. So that's not good for the Republican parties because they need to keep they have to keep the status quo in the states where they are already doing well in. So in this map, they already have 3 seats, but with this new map, they only will most likely have 2 seats, while the Democrats will have 2 seats, assuming that Cindy Axne holds on to a seat in 2022. So this is not really good for the Republican Party for long term. I mean, it's only 1 seat, but for the Republican Party, if they want to get as many seats as possible just by redistricting, then this is not the way to go. This is not the map that they want or they should get in order to achieve that goal. So that's why many people are wondering if Republicans will still follow through with this map or not. This map is actually pretty good in terms of partisanship. It accurately reflects the partisan nature of Iowa, where there's one safe Democratic seat, meaning that 25% of the vote is Democratic, and then you have 50% of the vote that's Republican, and then add this you could split it half and half with the remaining 25%. So because of that, Republicans get around 64% of the seats, and then for the Democratic Party, they get around 39%. So it's relatively even. Which is why many people are questioning whether Republicans will follow through with this or not. You can see here that there's really only a deviation of 63 residents between the most populous district and the least populous district. So it follows partisanship standards, it follows compactness because it doesn't like split any counties, and there is very little deviation in population going on with these 4 districts. For the Republicans right now, they seem inclined to follow through with this map. The Senate Majority Leader, who's a Republican, said he will continue, or he looks forward to following the nonpartisan process to create congressional and legislative districts. But the Republicans could easily buck this map and choose their own map. And if they were to choose their own map, that would mean that Democrats would have 1 lean seat and Republicans would have 3 likely seats. So that's the state of play at Iowa right now. Their deadline for enacting a map is February 28th, 2022. So the congressional map should be decided by that date. And there are still more maps that the LSA can make. They can make a map that's more favorable for the Democrats or for the Republicans, and if they do that, then that's better for the Republican Party. But oops, sorry for that, Mike. But as of now, though, this map is not really good for the Republicans. And in the coming videos, you'll start to see a trend where even though Republicans could very well lock down their strength on redistricting, it seems like they're not doing so. It seems like that factors like the LSA and factors like themselves in several state legislatures are negatively affecting their ability to gerrymander as many districts as possible, because they are gerrymandering districts, for example, Indiana, but they are not gerrymandering as much as they could be doing. So for the Democrats, it's still pretty bad for them, and for democracy, it's still pretty bad, but at the very least, it's not like the redistricting Armageddon that most people, and I guess more particularly Democrats, thought would happen for this redistricting cycle. So that's the end of this video. Hope you enjoyed it. This video is now adjourned, and I'll see you in the next one.